Pretty simply, I think what culture is missing when it comes to fatherhood is an engagement that's kind of organic. There have been there are some current attempts at sort of increasing the awareness of the importance of fatherhood in culture, but I think many of those even miss the point where they focus on dads going to PTA meetings and dads going to soccer practice and dads, helping out at the bake sale and that type of thing. One of the trends lately, I think, is to make good fathers into just a duplicate of a good mother. Whereas I think what's important in fatherhood is this sort of obscure presence and voice of empathy, that comes along with having a good dad just around. It's a quieter thing. It's a less point by point kind of list oriented type of thing. It's not that a good dad is necessarily the one waking up in the morning, making the breakfast, getting the kids off to school, picking them up. That can all be part of it, but that's not the definitional. The definitional is more obscure than that. It's more, it's quieter than that. It's somebody who's there, who can be counted on, whose sort of silent reliance is always present in the room, even though you couldn't necessarily put your finger on it or define it in a very particular list-oriented sort of way. And I think that's what's missing. I think we need dads to be there, but it's harder for us to say why dads need to be there than it is, and sometimes for us to say why moms need to be there. But every piece of statistical data that's come out in the last 20 years, either from religious sources or secular sources, backs up the fact that if children are going to grow up to be quote unquote successful adults, that the first thing you can do in their favor is to have a good father present in their life. And you don't even have to provide the list of things that good father is doing. You just have to say that he's there. As shocking and as sort of countercultural as that might sound, the data is in the favor of what I just said. And I think the problem is we're always looking for the specificity of why we need dad around. But the reality is that in order for children to have this sort of sense of assurance that everything's going to work out in the end, they need that sort of obscure voice of empathy that is harder to define, and they need it in their lives, as much as they need their next breath. And in our culture, we've only presented the other side. We've presented the negative side, the useless side, the list-oriented side, the dad is soccer mom side. We haven't presented this sort of ever-present, masculine, but in a quiet sort of way, presence in the room and in the home that the children need.